Welcome to the virtual public hearing for the US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project, presented by the Texas Department of Transportation Dallas District. We appreciate your interest in the US 67 project and welcome each of you. Please note that this presentation can be paused at any point to allow you more time to review the slides. Given the unique circumstance of the COVID-19 outbreak, along with our commitment to protecting public health during this national emergency, TxDOT is conducting this virtual public hearing to minimize in-person contact. The presentation will cover the same information the Dallas District would have shared at an in-person public hearing. However, the comment process will be different. Details on how to submit a comment and have your questions addressed will be covered later in this presentation. All project information can be found on the TxDOT website. This virtual public hearing has been convened by TxDOT and is being held to receive and consider comments from the public regarding the US 67 and Lake Ridge Parkway project. Many of you may have attended previous public hearings conducted by TxDOT. However, for the benefit of those of you who have never attended one, I would like to explain how and why the department conducts a public hearing. A public hearing has four essential purposes: to inform the public of the status of planning on the project and present the recommendations based on studies performed to date, to describe the project so those attending can determine the project's potential to affect their lives and property, to provide the public an opportunity to see information and express their views at a stage in the planning process when flexibility to respond to comments still exists, and before location and design decisions are finalized. And finally, to develop a record of public views and participation to accompany recommendations for subsequent decisions. This virtual public hearing is being held in compliance with both federal and state laws. For the official record, a transcript of this hearing will be made. Following this hearing, TxDOT will proceed with the preparation of the final environmental documentation. Your statements and comments will be addressed in this documentation and will be given full consideration in the preparation of the final recommendation and design for the US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project. Comments will be accepted in a number of ways. Written comments can be emailed to TxDOT Project Manager Dan Peden, PE, at dan.peden@txdot.gov. or mail to Dan Peden, PE, at the TxDOT Dallas District Office, 4777 East Highway 80 in Mesquite, Texas, 75150. Comments will also be accepted using an online comment form available on the project website. Verbal comments can be provided by leaving a message via voicemail at 833-933-0434. Comments must be received or postmarked by December 30th, 2020 to be part of the official public hearing record. However, the public may email project staff at any time in the project development process to ask questions about the project. The next slides will cover the design aspects of the US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project. The design schematic and environmental documentation for the US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project may be viewed online at www.keepitmovingdallas.com/US 67 or at www.TxDOT.gov by searching public meetings and hearings. The information on these websites is the same information being presented in this video. TxDOT is proposing to construct a grade separation at US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway with an overpass at US 67 in Dallas and Ellis Counties. The project is approximately 1.8 miles in length. The proposed project is needed due to the current insufficient transportation network in the project vicinity and to accommodate projected increased traffic demand. Transportation improvements are needed along US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway due to increasing population within the project area and surrounding communities. The increase in population is expected to lead to increased traffic volumes and conflicting movements, which impairs safety and inhibits mobility along the facility. The purpose of the project is to reduce traffic congestion, enhance connectivity and mobility, and to address safety for the surrounding communities. The proposed grade separation would improve corridor mobility and operations, as well as improve access to local and regional system networks. Construction of the grade separation improvements would ensure a safe design for all users and improve on existing conditions with the replacement of the dated facility that does not meet current design standards. The existing US 67 facility consists of northbound and southbound main lanes and frontage roads. The main lanes consist of 4 12-foot travel lanes, 2 in each direction, with 6-foot inside shoulders and 10-foot outside shoulders. A 34-foot wide inside grassy median separates the northbound and southbound main lanes. The frontage roads consist of 4 12-foot travel lanes, 2 in each direction, with 4-foot inside and outside shoulders and open ditches. The existing right-of-way varies between 355 feet to 420 feet. Lake Ridge Parkway is a T intersection at the southbound frontage road. The proposed improvements would include reconstruction of the US 67 main lanes and frontage roads from north of Shiloh Road to south of Mount Lebanon Road. The proposed US 67 main lanes would consist of 4 12-foot lanes, 2 in each direction, 22-foot inside shoulders, and 10-foot outside shoulders. A 26-foot wide inside grassy median would separate the northbound and southbound main lanes. The 22-foot inside shoulder would be restriped in the future to add 1 additional travel lane in each direction. The proposed northbound and southbound frontage roads would consist of 4 12-foot lanes, 2 in each direction, and 8-foot inside and outside shoulders. The proposed project would consist of the construction of a grade separation at Lake Ridge Parkway, with US 67 as an overpass. The proposed improvements of Lake Ridge Parkway would consist of 6 12-foot lanes, 3 in each direction, a 10-foot raised median, curb and gutter, and Texas U-turns. The existing ramps within the project area would be converted to an X-ramp pattern design for Lake Ridge Parkway. In an X-ramp configuration, traffic enters the freeway from the frontage road in advance of the nearest cross street, Lake Ridge Parkway, and exits the freeway past the nearest cross street. Utilities such as water lines, sewer lines, gas lines, telephone cables, electrical lines, and other underground and overhead utilities may need to be adjusted to accommodate the proposed improvements. The adjustment and relocation of any utilities would be managed so that no substantial service interruptions would occur while these adjustments are being made. The proposed project is anticipated to be ready to let for construction in October 2023 and would take approximately 2 years to construct. Letting is when TxDOT notifies the construction community that a project is ready to be bid on. Construction on a project begins after the letting process is complete. The estimated total cost for the project is approximately $57.8 million. This concludes the project information and design portion of the presentation. The next few slides will provide an overview of the environmental evaluation for the proposed US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project. Notices for this public hearing were advertised in the Dallas Morning News, Al Dia, and Focus Daily News. Notices were mailed to elected officials and adjacent property owners. Notices were posted on the TxDOT.gov website, search public meetings and hearings, and on keepitmovingdallas.com under public hearings and meetings. The TxDOT Public Information Office also prepared a news release to advertise the public hearing. Prior to December 16, 2014, the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, reviewed and approved documents prepared under the National Environmental Policy Act known as NEPA. However, on December 16, 2014, the Texas Department of Transportation assumed responsibility from FHWA to review and approve certain assigned NEPA environmental documents. This Memorandum of Understanding was renewed on December 9, 2019. The review and approval process applies to this project. Environmental studies have been performed for the proposed US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project to support environmental clearance in accordance with NEPA. The environmental analyses are necessary to identify, avoid, and minimize effects to the human and natural environments. The technical documentation for this project addressed the potential environmental impacts identified during the schematic phase of the proposed project. These areas of potential impacts included natural, social, and cultural resources, as well as potential impacts to adjacent and surrounding land use. The environmental reports were approved by TxDOT and have been coordinated with other public agencies. This slide shows a list of all resources that were evaluated during the environmental phase of the project. The following slides include a summary of the more notable findings. The proposed project would require approximately 60.38 acres of right-of-way to accommodate the proposed improvements. The proposed project would result in the displacement of one commercial building. No residences would be displaced. No public facilities such as parks, recreational facilities, churches, schools, or cemeteries would be displaced as a result of the proposed project. TxDOT would be responsible for all right-of-way acquisition for the proposed project. All right-of-way acquisition would be completed in accordance with the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended. Information about the TxDOT Relocation Assistance Program and services and benefits for displacees and other affected property owners, as well as information about the tentative schedule for right-of-way acquisition and construction, can be obtained from the TxDOT Dallas District Office by calling 214-320-6696 or by visiting the project website. Brochures, including 2 booklets titled The Purchase of Right-of-Way and Relocation Assistance, are also available for you on the project website. These booklets contain detailed information to inform you of your rights and provide information about the TxDOT right-of-way acquisition procedures. This project will not involve any regulated activity in any jurisdictional waters and therefore does not require a United States Army Corps of Engineers dredge and fill permit under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act. A review of the Federal Emergency Management Agency flood insurance rate maps indicated that the project area is located outside of the floodplain. The hydraulic design for the proposed project would be in accordance with current TxDOT policies, laws, regulations, and standards. TxDOT historians determined that there are no historic, non-archaeological properties within the area of potential effects. TxDOT archaeologists determined that there are no previously recorded archaeological sites present within the project area, and no new archaeological sites were recorded during the survey. At the time of this survey, right of entry had been granted for approximately 90% of the total project area. For portions of the area of potential effects where right of entry had been obtained, it was determined that no further archaeological work is warranted. However, further work is recommended prior to construction in 6 of the 14 parcels where right of entry has not yet been granted. These parcels will require intensive archaeological survey once right of entry is granted for a future survey. A hazardous materials initial site assessment, or ISA, was completed for the proposed project. The components of the ISA included reviewing project design and right-of-way requirements, reviewing existing and previous land use, reviewing federal and state regulatory databases and files, and conducting project site visits. Of the 9 sites identified during the ISA, 3 were determined to pose a low environmental risk to the proposed project. All 3 low-risk sites are commercial properties, and right-of-way would be acquired from 2 of these sites. Special provisions or contingency language would be included in the project's construction plans to handle hazardous materials and/or petroleum contamination according to applicable federal and state regulations. Any unanticipated hazardous materials accounting during construction would be handled according to applicable federal, state, and local regulations per TxDOT standard specifications. Early regulatory agency coordination would also be initiated during project development. A traffic noise analysis was performed in accordance with TxDOT's and FHWA's approved guidelines for analysis and abatement of roadway traffic noise. Based on the analysis, 2 receivers are expected to be impacted by noise. A receiver is a specific outdoor location where frequent human activity occurs. Noise abatement options were considered for these receivers in accordance with TxDOT and FHWA criteria. It was determined that noise barriers would not be feasible and reasonable for the impacted noise receivers. In conclusion, the studies, analyses, and evaluations performed indicate the proposed project would cause no significant environmental impacts. Following this hearing, documentation of this public hearing will be reviewed by TxDOT for final environmental clearance and design approval. If there are no major issues arising from this hearing that cannot be addressed in a reasonable time frame, final environmental clearance is expected in February of 2021. As mentioned earlier, the project has an anticipated ready-to-lit date in 2023. The project is anticipated to be constructed in multiple phases and take 2 years to construct. This concludes the environmental evaluation portion of the presentation. All comments and questions will be fully considered and responded to in the project record and made part of the final environmental document for this proposed project. This document will then be made available for public review at www.keepitmovingdallas.com/US67. As a reminder, there are several methods available for you to leave a public comment. All forms of comments must be received or postmarked on or before Wednesday, December 30th, 2020, to be included in the public hearing summary. Comments and questions can be emailed or mailed to the TxDOT Project Manager, Dan Peden. The email address and mailing addresses are listed on the screen. Verbal comments can be provided by leaving a message via voicemail at 833-933-0434. Please include your name and address in your message. You may also leave a comment by clicking the link on the project website. We sincerely appreciate your interest concerning the US 67 at Lake Ridge Parkway project. Your questions, comments, and concerns will receive careful consideration. Thank you very much. This concludes the presentation, and the hearing is now adjourned.